Welcome to the show. Today, we're focusing our attention on a very specific, incredibly detailed philosophical manifesto from 2004.
Right, the one titled Create a Rational, Peaceful, Humanistic Era.
Exactly. Now, given that you already follow the broader landscape of the Lifechanyuan organization and the writings of the figure referred to as deiform Buddha, well, you know the
You're
territory.
familiar with the basics, yeah.
Right. But our mission for this deep dive is to really isolate and impartially unpack the strict cosmological worldview presented in this specific text.
Because it's very distinct.
It is. We are going to explore the unconventional mechanics it lays out regarding the purpose of humanity, the structure of the afterlife, and, well, the highly specific roles of figures like Jesus and Satan.
Which is going to be a wild ride.
Oh, for sure. And just a reminder, we aren't here to endorse or debate the theology. We're just acting as your guides through the architectural blueprints of this spiritual landscape, exactly as the source material presents it.
And honestly, it requires a big shift in how we usually analyze religious texts.
How so?
Well, we kind of have to set aside that traditional framework of theology as this, emotional morality play where everything is just about divine reward or punishment or some final judgment.
Right, the usual heaven and hell narrative.
Exactly. Because this 2004 manifesto approaches cosmology far more objectively.
Hmm.
It basically treats the universe as an exercise in structural engineering.
Structural engineering, I like that. It's like, imagine you walk into the control room of the universe,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
and instead of a judge in a flowing robe, weighing your sins on golden scales, you find an accountant.
A cosmic auditor.
Yes, just sitting at a desk with an impossibly large ledger, calmly running the numbers. And the auditor looks up, taps a calculator, and says, well, we have a structural deficit here.
Right.
The ecosystem is out of proportion. We have to execute a massive readjustment to balance the books.
That accountant metaphor is, honestly, it's the perfect lens for this text. The adjustments they talk about, they aren't based on anger or retribution.
They're just math.
Yeah, they are based on raw systemic quotas.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the fundamental timeline of the universe that the text establishes. Because this cosmic auditor is apparently working on a very rigid schedule.
Very rigid.
The text explicitly outlines a universal life cycle that ran from 2988 BC to 2012 AD.
Right, that specific window.
Yeah. And at the end of this specific cycle, the system hits what they call a critical point.
Yes, a critical point, and it acts a lot like a mandatory stock market correction,
Oh, interesting.
where inflated assets are forcibly devalued to stabilize the overall cosmic economy. The text divides existence into specific spaces. You have the supreme level space, the mortal world, and the low-level life space.
So basically the upper, middle, and lower realms.
Exactly. And over the course of that 2988 BC to 2012 AD cycle, the population of life forms across those spaces drifted completely out of structural equilibrium.
Which brings up the specific example the text gives regarding the mortal world, meaning Earth. It clarifies this mechanic perfectly, I think.
Yeah, the animal population part.
Right. It points out that the animal population has declined so sharply that it is now mathematically disproportionate to the booming human population.
The ratio is just way off.
Way off. So to fix the math and restore the necessary density of those low-level life spaces, a vast number of humans literally must reincarnate back into the animal world.
And, in a lot of spiritual traditions, reincarnating as an animal is interpreted subjectively,
Yeah.
like a karmic demotion.
Like you did something bad, so you're punished.
Exactly, a punishment for a life poorly lived.
Yeah.
But the 2004 manifesto frames it as a purely objective quantitative necessity.
Wow.
The universe just requires a specific biomass of animals to maintain the structural integrity of souls across the mortal world.
So humans are simply reassigned to fill vacant slots.
Yeah, to fill the cosmic quota.
Think of it like a closed ecosystem terrarium. If your tank has way too many snails and zero algae, the biological math dictates that the whole environment will just crash.
It has to balance out.
Right. The system corrects itself without any malice toward the snails. And this ruthless sorting process, it applies to the afterlife as well, which the text categorizes with extreme precision.
The post-cycle afterlife is highly stratified. It's based on the energetic frequency or the structural integrity of the soul.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, for example, any non-material structure that fits the criteria of what they call the inferno frozen layer and inflamed layer is sent to those corresponding spaces in hell.
And we should probably clarify the mechanics of those layers because it isn't just a list of medieval torture chambers.
Oh, far from it. The text treats these layers as specific holding environments.
Like quarantine zones.
Yeah, sort of quarantine zones for different types of disorganized spiritual energy. Now, if a soul has achieved what the text calls perfect human nature,
Meaning what exactly?
meaning they have smoothed out their internal friction and they align with the harmonic logic of the system, if they do that, they graduate to the 1,000-year world.
And then those graduation criteria scale up systematically from there. Like, if you achieve the Tao, you enter the 10,000-year world.
Yep.
If you achieve Buddha status, you bypass those entirely and enter the Elysium world. Even the Celestials, these beings who were dispatched to Earth centuries ago for specific missions, they get recalled back to the upper realms,
It really is a total reallocation of assets.
which leaves only one specific demographic behind on Earth.
The stragglers.
Right. The individuals who are advancing toward perfect human nature, but just haven't quite attained the structural integrity to ascend.
They remain in the human world to reproduce and literally build the next era.
But wait, if the math demands such a drastic reshuffling, how does the universe manage the transition for those left behind on Earth?
It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah. I mean, if the cosmic ledger is being aggressively audited, surviving that planetary correction sounds logistically impossible for a stranded population.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the universe in this framework operates on principles of preservation, not destruction. The system actively wants the remaining humans to successfully stabilize the new era. So it provides resources for the transition.
Right. The text notes that heaven dispatches celestials or angels to assist humanity through this critical point.
But it goes out of its way to clarify the delivery mechanism.
Yeah, this part is wild. These celestials do not manifest as physical extraterrestrials.
No spaceships.
No ships, they don't walk around in human bodies.
Yeah.
They are transmitted as psychic energy that attaches to human hosts.
It's a form of internal symbiosis.
Uh-huh.
The manifesto actually quotes a poem by Xu Fang to illustrate the physics of this attraction. It goes, "Butterfly flock around when flowers are blossoming. Celestial will you be when you only think of a mortal thing."
So the psychic energy acts like a frequency.
Exactly. It only attaches to a human receptor that is broadcasting on a compatible wavelength.
But to make yourself a compatible receptor, the text outlines a very, very demanding process.
Oh, extremely demanding.
You have to enter an unconsciousness state. You must actively format your existing knowledge, your life experiences, and your rational values so that the life source can install new programs.
The terminology there, formatting and installing new programs, it leans so heavily into the software metaphor.
It really does. You are wiping the hard drive of your mind to make space for the celestial update.
Yeah.
I understand the software metaphor, but I have to challenge the practicality of this. Completely formatting my rational values sounds dangerously close to inducing a fugue state.
It does sound intense.
I mean, rationality is how a modern human navigates reality. It's how we pay our bills, evaluate risks, cross a busy street without getting hit.
Right, the day-to-day survival stuff.
Exactly. If the text demands the deletion of earthly logic, how does someone function in society? Is this a surrender of free will? Or does the text define rational values differently?
That is the crucial distinction to make here. The manifesto isn't asking you to delete your instrumental rationality.
Okay, so I can still cross the street.
Yes, you keep the logic required to cross the street or build a house. It actually targets existential rationality.
Existential rationality.
Yeah, the stubborn, ego-driven frameworks that humans use to justify resource hoarding, conflict, and self-preservation at the expense of the whole.
Ah, the software that prioritizes the individual over the ecosystem.
Yes. The text argues that those specific earthly values are obsolete code. If you try to run them in the post-adjustment era, your system will literally crash.
So the formatting requires a conscious choice to surrender that ego-driven logic.
Exactly. The text uses an analogy of a bird waking from a dream. You have to actively realize you are not an ugly duckling and delete that self-perception to allow the white swan software to boot up.
It's an upgrade, not a lobotomy.
Right, an upgrade.
But let's assume you agree to wipe the drive and accept the celestial upgrade. Why is it so incredibly difficult for humans to maintain that state?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. If the universe is actively transmitting angelic software to help us, why is human history defined by so much friction?
Well, this brings us directly to the text's explanation for the function of evil. And this is where the structural engineering metaphor of the manifesto is the most pronounced.
Here's where it gets really interesting. In the 2004 text, Satan and the devils are not rebellious entities.
No, they're not.
They aren't heterodox enemies actively trying to thwart the greatest creator. They are high-level employees executing a critical function of the universe's balancing program.
What's fascinating here is the absolute elimination of moral panic regarding the devil.
Yeah, it completely flips it.
Go back to the cosmic math we discussed earlier. The entire architecture of this universe relies on symmetrical balance. The text presents this really visceral analogy. The universe is structured like a human body.
Okay.
If you split a person horizontally down the middle, the top half cannot survive without the bottom half.
So the tension between ascending to the upper realms and descending to the lower realms, that is the load-bearing pillar of the universe.
Precisely. So consider the systemic disaster if Satan didn't exist.
Chaos.
Complete chaos. If there were no obstacles, no temptations, and no downward pull, every single soul would immediately flock to the upper realms, or they demand to stay on Earth.
And then no one would fill the quotas for the animal world or the lower spaces.
Right. The system would instantly collapse under its own top-heaviness.
So Satan is deployed to ensure that doesn't happen.
It's the only job.
The text points to things like money, beauty, power, status, and intense religious conflict. In a traditional framework, these are moral failings. But here, they are deliberate crowd control tools.
I love the analogy they use for this.
Oh, the manifesto offers a brilliant analogy that clarifies the mechanism perfectly. It compares Satan to a policeman standing at the doors of an exclusive conference hall, actively holding back a swarming crowd.
It completely redefines the unity of opposites. Good and evil aren't opposing moralities. They are opposing gravitational forces required for structural integrity.
So viewing Satan as a malicious monster is, according to the manifesto, a deep misunderstanding of his function.
Totally.
Yeah.
He is faithfully executing his duty. He's the security guard maintaining the capacity limits of the upper realms.
That reframes the daily human experience entirely. That obsessive drive for a higher salary, the pursuit of fame, or that bitter political argument you engage in, they aren't just personal weaknesses.
No, they are systemic distractions.
Working flawlessly to keep you out of the VIP room.
Exactly.
But the text makes an even bolder theological claim regarding this cosmic crowd control. It implicates Jesus in the exact same filtering process.
Yeah, the manifesto's interpretation of Jesus' methodology is highly unorthodox.
To say the least.
It asserts that Jesus utilized parables not as teaching aids to simplify complex ideas, but as a deliberate form of encryption.
A mechanism designed to confuse.
Yeah.
The text states that Jesus spoke in encrypted parables, specifically so the people who were structurally destined for hell would not understand the teachings.
Because if the parables were easily digestible, those individuals would decipher them, repent, and avoid the lower realms.
And if they avoid the lower realms, the cosmic math is thrown off again. Hell remains empty, the balance is shattered, and heaven ceases to exist.
Jesus and Satan, in this framework, are essentially working different ends of the same filtration system.
It is a profound level of divine gatekeeping. The operational manual for ascending is available, but it's heavily encrypted, ensuring it can only be downloaded and unpacked by the specific receptors running that white swan software.
Which naturally leads to the question of yield.
Right.
If a universe's security guards are highly effective and the instruction manual is encrypted by design, how many people actually survive the filter?
The numbers provided in the text are very explicit. Deiform Buddha calculates that the required population for the new era is only 2% of humanity.
Just 2%. Roughly 130 million people out of the global population.
Wow.
They are the only ones designated to remain and build the rational, peaceful, and humanistic era.
But if only 130 million people possess the required operating system, what happens to the vast majority running the old software? Does the universe just write off the other 98%?
The manifesto addresses this directly. It argues that Deiform Buddha does not ignore the 98%, rather, the 98% actively refuse the update.
They opt out.
Basically.
Yeah.
The text predicts that mainstream societal pillars, communists, Christians, Buddhists, Falun Gong practitioners, will encounter Lifechanyuan's teachings and instinctively dismiss them as absurd.
This raises an important question regarding human nature, doesn't it?
This raises an important question regarding human nature and the inherent danger of consensus. The text actually quotes the celestial being Lao Tzu to emphasize this dynamic. He says, "My words are very easy to know and very easy to practice. They who know me are few, and I am on that account to be prized.
The manifesto views the consensus of the crowd with extreme suspicion.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a specific vision detailed in the text, the dream of Shuifeng Mountain.
I remember that part.
The dream depicts a steep mountain path with only a very small handful of people laboriously climbing upward. There is no bustling crowd, no cheering consensus.
Just a few people.
Right. The explicit warning is that if you find yourself walking comfortably among the common crowd, conforming to majority values, well, you will eventually look up and realize the crowd has marched directly to the doors of hell.
The required path is solitary by design. The extreme exclusivity of that 2% is not framed as an elitist club. It is the mathematical reality of a system where the vast majority of units are successfully distracted by the cosmic policeman.
So what does this all mean for you? If you want to secure a place within that 2%, the text states you must acquire a visa to the new era.
A visa.
And what's striking is that despite the massive failure rate of the general population, the actual requirements for the visa are mechanically simple.
They really are. The requirements aren't based on complex rituals or wealth or physical endurance. They require a fundamental reorientation of your core frequencies.
Okay, so what's on the application?
To obtain the visa, the text mandates reverence to the greatest creator, reverence to life, reverence to nature, and following the Tao.
Let's break down the mechanics of those requirements. How does a person functionally exhibit reverence to the greatest creator in this specific framework, knowing the creator isn't viewed as a traditional emotional deity?
Right. Reverence to the greatest creator, in the context of this 2004 manifesto, means acknowledging and respecting the supreme structural intelligence of the universe.
So trusting the math.
Exactly.
Right.
Trusting the cosmic auditor's math rather than fighting it. And then reverence to life and nature means recognizing that you are a component of the terrarium, not the owner of it.
You stop extracting and start harmonizing.
Beautifully put.
Yes.
And following the Tao.
Following the Tao is the practical application of that harmony. It's moving with the underlying current of the universe rather than thrashing against it.
Which sounds easy enough.
You'd think so. The tragedy of the 98%, according to the text, is that these requirements are remarkably straightforward, yet the human ego finds them impossible to sustain. Because the ego demands complexity and conflict.
Exactly.
Let's follow this to its logical conclusion. You manage to format your existential values. You successfully ignore the cosmic policeman waving status and wealth in your face.
You got your visa.
You secure the visa and make it through the critical adjustment period. What is the day-to-day reality of this new post-adjustment society for that remaining 2%?
The manifesto details a rational, peaceful, and humanistic era. The environment is categorized by harmonious nature with ample food and resources readily available.
So the friction of survival is largely eliminated.
Yes. But the most philosophically compelling detail about this new era is what it lacks. The text explicitly states it will be an era that does not need great men or heroes.
An entire society without heroes. When you analyze the mechanics of that, it makes perfect sense within this framework.
Because heroes only exist to solve problems.
Right. A society only produces a hero when there is a catastrophic failure that needs to be solved. If the ecosystem is in perfect equilibrium, if the 130 million people left have eradicated ego-driven conflict, resource hoarding, and mental disease, the utility of a great man just vanishes.
It becomes obsolete.
It is a horizontally structured society operating entirely without crises.
It's the ultimate realization of this structural engineering project. The system just runs flawlessly. However, the manifesto carefully notes that the greatest creator does not revoke human free will.
Great.
Even in the new era, or on the path to it, the autonomy of the individual remains intact.
Satan and the balancing entities can present the distractions. They can place the desire for a luxury car or a prestigious title directly in your path, but they cannot force your hand.
They just offer the bait.
The cosmic ledger dictates the quotas. The universe initiates the adjustment, but you are still the operator of your own psychic machinery.
The architecture of the universe might be an unyielding mathematical reality, but you retain the agency to determine which layer of the structure you ultimately occupy.
That's a heavy thought to sit with.
It really is.
Yeah.
So I will leave you with this final thought regarding the manifesto's unique worldview. If every ambition you harbor for wealth, status, or societal power is actually just a cosmic security guard executing a specific protocol to distract you from the VIP room of the universe, how does that change the way you look at your goals tomorrow morning?